Do you understand a lot of Montenegrin? But when you try to speak, your brain does this. English, Montenegrin, panic, silence. Hi, I'm Radmila from Montenegrin Learning Center, and today we're talking about one of the biggest problems my students have. I translate everything in my head and can't think in Montenegrin. Let me explain why this happens, and I will give you 6 practical steps to slowly stop translating and start sounding more natural. First of all, there is nothing wrong with you. Your brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Save energy, use the strongest system it has, your native language, avoid situations where you might look stupid. So, when you want to say something, your brain goes, "Oh, I know this in English, let's say it in English. Montenegrin is risky, we might embarrass ourselves." And honestly, if you can survive in Montenegro with English, your brain has zero motivation to switch. So, the problem is not just the grammar. The problem is habit, fear, and no safe space to practice slowly. We are going to work on those. Step 2. One huge mistake learners make is this. They try to build perfect English sentences in their head first and then search for perfect Montenegrin. This is way too heavy. For example, in your head, you want to say, "I've been thinking a lot about changing my job because I feel like I'm not growing anymore." Your brain in Montenegrin class, nope. So instead, I want you to downgrade your sentences on purpose. Turn that into 2 or 3 very simple sentences. "I think about my job a lot. I want to change it. I feel bad there." Simple, imperfect, but sayable. Thinking in Montenegrin starts when you accept that 10 simple sentences in Montenegrin are better than 1 perfect sentence that never leaves your mouth. Your goal is not to invent every sentence from zero. Your goal is to collect ready-made blocks. Things like "in my country", "u mojoj zemlji", "for me personally", "za mene lično", "I'm not sure, but I think", "nisam sigurna, ali ja mislim da", "it's hard to explain, but", "teško je objasniti, ali". In Montenegrin, these become your Lego pieces. You don't translate word by word, you just plug in the blocks. When my students have a few of these in Montenegrin, they suddenly talk more because the beginning of the sentence is automatic. So I always tell them, don't collect only words, collect chunks, small phrases you can reuse in many situations. That's how your brain slowly switches from "translate this exact word" to "oh, I know this kind of sentence, let's use that pattern." Another problem is that most learners only speak Montenegrin in high-pressure situations. At the bank, at the police station, at the doctor, and with foreigners. Of course, your brain panics there. You're worried about documents, money, health, not about practicing really. So you need low-pressure output. With someone you trust, where you can stop, think, repeat, where silence is allowed and mistakes are normal. That can be a friend who is patient, a language partner, a conversation group, or a language club like the one I run. The key is, your brain has to experience speaking Montenegrin in situations where nothing terrible happens if you're slow, nobody laughs at you, and you leave the conversation thinking, "Okay, that was messy, but I survived." Do that enough times and the translation becomes less traumatic. Here's another very practical trick that my students love. Create tiny Montenegrin-only windows in your day. For example, first 5 minutes of class, only Montenegrin. While you're making coffee in the morning, you describe to yourself what are you going to do in Montenegrin. Even super simple sentences will work. One evening a week, you choose one friend or group and say, "Okay, tonight we suffer in Montenegrin together." The idea is not to live 24 hours in Montenegrin. That's not realistic for most adults. The idea is to tell your brain regularly, "Okay, right now the default language is Montenegrin, English is plan B, not plan A." At the beginning, you will mix a lot, and that's completely fine. You can even say, "Okay, I will try Montenegrin first, and if I really can't, I'll switch." That's already a win, because you change the order in your brain. Before, English first, and then Montenegrin if I'm brave. After, Montenegrin first, English only if I'm dying. What I see in my students when they start doing this consistently is they make shorter, simple sentences, chunks instead of single words, low-pressure practice, small Montenegrin-only windows. Something changes. They still make mistakes. They still say some weird things sometimes, but they also answer faster, stop apologizing every 2 seconds, and they finally start to sound like themselves in Montenegrin, with humor, opinion, and personality. And that's what thinking in Montenegrin really means. It is not about never translating. It is about being able to speak without feeling like you're doing surgery in your brain every time. So, if you live in Montenegro or you use the language regularly, tell me in the comments. Do you translate in your head all the time? And in which situation is the worst? Shops, offices, friends, family? If you want a safe space to practice speaking with other people who are exactly in this I understand but I freeze phase, you are welcome in my Montenegrin language and culture club. I'll put all the links in the description. Thank you for watching, and remember, you know more than you think. You just need to start using it. Vidimo se!